Integrity is more than a value. It is the one value of mind that assures or guarantees all the other values that you select. The economic and personal results of individuals and corporations with clear values always tend to be far superior to those of companies and individuals whose values are vague or unclear. Clarify your personal values. Your starting point toward higher self-confidence and personal greatness is to first of all clarify your values for yourself. It is for you to decide for yourself the values that you believe in. What do you stand for? And even more, what will you not stand for? What values do you espouse that you are willing to sacrifice for? What values would you pay for or sweat for, or maybe even die for? Do you value your family, your God, your health, your work or career? Do you value principles such as freedom, liberty, compassion for the less fortunate, or reverence for life? Do you believe in honesty and truth and sincerity and hard work and success? Whatever your values are, think them through and write them down. Who do you most admire? A useful exercise is for you to think of the men and women, living and dead, whom you most admire. What qualities or attributes of these people do you consider the most important? If you could be like any one of these people, which of their qualities would you most want to emulate? When you look around you at the people you admire, what qualities of these people do you consider to be the most important? What qualities do you look for in your friends and associates when you're trying to decide whether or not to become deeply involved with them? What do you think are the fundamental qualities or values that underlie business and personal relationships? What are your values? Now, values are non-negotiable. When you select a value, if it's to be one of your values at all, it becomes inviolable. Either it is a fixed value, and you live every part of your life consistent with it, or it is not one of your values. You cannot have a value when it is convenient, and put it aside when it is not convenient. You cannot have a little bit of integrity. It must be all or nothing. The act of selecting your values is also the act of clearly stating to yourself, and sometimes to others, exactly how you will live your life from this moment forward. Once you have selected a value, and you have declared it to be one of your unifying principles, you are in effect saying that this is something upon which you will never compromise. And your level of adherence to the values that you have personally selected is the real measure of your character, your true quality as a human being. Unshakable self-confidence comes from unshakable commitment to your values. When, deep down inside yourself, you know that you will never violate your highest principles, you experience a deep sense of personal power that enables you to deal openly and honestly and with complete self-confidence in almost every human situation. Values clarification. If you're having any difficulty in clarifying your values, a very helpful exercise is to take some time to write out your own obituary or eulogy. Imagine that everyone you know and care about is gathered at your funeral to pay their last respects. The minister reads your eulogy to this assembly of people, and in it he describes the person you became over the course of your lifetime. He describes not only what you accomplished and what you contributed to the lives of others, but he reads out the virtues, values, and qualities that you were known for by the people around you. This obituary can become your vision of the kind of person you wish to be and the kind of values that you wish to live by. No one is perfect, and we all have a long way to go in living our lives consistent with our highest values. But the very exercise of writing out your obituary will exert a powerful influence on everything that you do thereafter. Both consciously and unconsciously, you will be drawn toward living and acting more and more like the person you described in that final testament. Organize your values. Once you've decided upon your values, your work is not over. Now you have to organize your values by priority. You have to decide which value is more important and which value is less important. If you wrote out each of your values on small squares of paper, and then you had to throw away all the squares but one, which one would you keep? This then becomes your foremost value, the one that takes precedence over all the others. Which would be your second most important value? Your third, your fourth, and so on. Your order of priority is extremely important in determining the kind of person you are and the kind of life you live. Many people organize their values with number 1 being God, number 2 being their family, number 3 being their health, number 4 being their career, and perhaps number 5 being success. A person with this order of values is saying that, when push comes to shove, I will always favor the higher order value over the lower order value. Values order forces you to choose. If your family comes before your health or your work, you would always sacrifice your health or your work for the well-being of your family. If your order of values was changed and your work or financial success came before your health, you would be saying that you would sacrifice your health if that was necessary to get ahead in your career. I have known businessmen who put career success ahead of their families in their order of priority. When they had to choose one or the other, they regularly chose their work over spending time with their spouse and children. And as a result, both the marriages and the careers have run into serious trouble. Selecting your values and then putting them in order of importance actually creates a mental and emotional structure that enables you to make better decisions and choices in every area of your life. Integrity Revisited. The principle of integrity, or adherence to your values, seems to be a law of the universe. Whenever you violate or compromise your integrity for anything, there seems to be a great power or force of retribution that will not allow you to get away with it. Integrity seems to be an absolute requirement for successful human living. A failing in integrity or compromising your values not only seems to bring about a punishment that fits the crime, whether it's in business and politics or personal life, but it seems to create a high level of stress, unhappiness, and inner turmoil in the life of the individual. This need for absolute integrity seems to require that you live in truth with all people and under all circumstances. Living in truth means that you never live a lie. It means that you never compromise your integrity for the sake of a job or money or a relationship. It means that you always do and say what you know to be right and true, no matter what the short-term cost or benefit. Living in truth means that you do not pretend or practice self-delusion. You face life, your relationships, and your circumstances exactly as they are, not as you wish they would be. Living in truth means that you never stay in a situation that makes you unhappy or which you feel for any reason is wrong for you. Set peace of mind as your highest principle. Living in truth means that you set peace of mind as your highest goal and as your core organizing principle. You select all your other goals to be consistent with it. You never compromise your peace of mind for anyone or anything else. You do and say only those things that feel perfectly right for you. You accept your own thoughts and feelings completely, whatever they are, and you systematically change each part of your life that is not giving you peace of mind. Only in this way can you enjoy the high levels of self-confidence that are experienced by the superior individual. Only by insisting that everything you do allows you to live in peace with yourself can you feel really terrific about yourself and get along wonderfully in all your relationships. Your values are only expressed in your actions. Living consistent with your values is the key to happiness, harmony, well-being, and high levels of self-confidence. And this brings us to the final point in this chapter, perhaps the most important point of all. It is that your true values are only expressed in your actions, in what you do. You can tell what you truly believe by observing what you do in any situation where you have to make a choice. Especially when you are under stress and pulled in two directions at once, with opposing demands or responsibilities, this is when your true values are revealed. The action that you take in any given situation will tell you which of your values is uppermost, or whether you have any values at all. It is not what you say, or hope, or wish, or intend, but only what you do that counts. Your choices of the actions you take tell you unerringly who you really are. In fact, you can tell what your values have been in the past by looking back and observing what you did under stress when you had an important choice to make. Did you listen to the better angels of your nature, or did you compromise for a short-term advantage? A person who says that his or her family comes first and then has to choose between working late and going to a child's school play or sports activity, and who chooses the child's needs over the boss's requirements, is a person who is living consistent with his or her highest values. Everyone has had the experience of walking away from a job or a relationship, even though considerable sacrifice was involved, because it was the right, though painful thing to do. And you probably remember how great you felt as a result. Whenever you act consistent with a higher value, you always feel terrific about yourself, and your self-confidence soars. But whenever you compromise your values for any reason, you feel uncomfortable, inferior, guilty, and your self-confidence plummets. The law of reversibility. The fact that your true values are only expressed in your actions brings us to a little-known mental principle called the law of reversibility. This law says that just as thoughts and feelings lead to actions consistent with them, the principle is reversible, and actions consistent with particular values or beliefs actually lead to the thoughts and feelings that would have triggered the actions. What this means is that even if you start off lacking a particular quality, if you deliberately act as if you already have the quality, you will eventually create within yourself the mental quality that corresponds to the action. Dr. William James of Harvard put it this way: action seems to follow feelings, but really action and feelings go together. And by regulating the action, which is under the more direct control of the will, we can indirectly regulate the feeling, which is not. The act as if principle. You can develop within yourself a superb set of values by acting as though you already had those values. You can develop integrity and courage and compassion and confidence by behaving as though you already had these qualities. And the more you act the part, especially when you demonstrate these qualities under stress, or when you feel like doing or saying something else, the more rapidly these qualities become a permanent part of your mental makeup. The more you practice good values, the more rapidly you become a truly superior person. The keys to developing the unshakable self-confidence that will make everything else possible for you is self-control, self-mastery, and self-discipline. Self-confidence can come directly by behaving in a self-confident manner, but it comes more often indirectly by doing and saying the things and practicing the behaviors that lead to self-confidence. And the most important self-development behavior is living consistently with your highest values at every opportunity. The principle of resistance. In weightlifting, muscles are developed by repetitive lifting of heavy weights. The heavier the weight and the greater the resistance, the more blood rushes into the capillaries and the bigger the muscle becomes. In mental development, there is a principle of resistance as well. In developing mental muscles, especially the mental muscle or quality of self-confidence, you can use this principle to accelerate your own development. Whenever you exert self-mastery and discipline yourself to do or say the right thing, especially under stress, you create resistance to your natural tendencies. This resistance generates friction. This is the same kind of friction or heat that, when applied to a crucible containing chemicals, will cause the chemicals to crystallize and take on a new form. When you create mental friction by resisting your natural tendencies and instead doing what you know is right and true and consistent with your highest values, especially in a difficult situation, the mental heat causes your values to crystallize at a higher level and eventually become a permanent part of your character. Developing inner strength. Each human quality is subject to this same formulation. Once you have persisted through great adversity, you are always capable of persisting through lesser difficulties. Once you have acted courageously in a major confrontation, you are always able to act courageously in the face of lesser confrontations. When you behave honestly when there are large amounts at stake, you are always able later on to behave honestly when you're dealing with lesser amounts. The foundation of self-confidence, the basis of boldness and self-assertion, is a deep inner trust based on living a life of perfect integrity and then disciplining yourself to live consistent with your highest values in every situation. Each time you do this, you will feel positive and happy and wonderful about yourself. Your behaviors will further crystallize in your personality and become a more permanent part of the exceptional human being that you are in the process of becoming. Now here are some action exercises for you to apply what we just talked about. Number 1, list your 3 most important values governing your personal life. Number 2, list the 3 most important values that you practice in your work and business life. Number 3, list the 3 people, living or dead, who you would most like to spend an afternoon with. Number 4, why would you want to spend an afternoon with these people? What would you ask them or talk about? Number 5, why would these 3 people want to spend an afternoon with you? What are your most admirable qualities? Number 6, list 3 times where you have lived consistent with your highest values when you could have compromised. And number 7, what are you going to do differently from now on to assure that your values and actions are in harmony? Chapter 2, Purpose and Personal Power. Orison Swett Marden wrote, "There can be no great courage where there is no confidence or assurance, and half the battle is in the conviction that we can do what we undertake." The development of unshakable self-confidence will open up such possibilities for you as you cannot now imagine. You will be able to dream bigger dreams, set bigger goals, make greater commitments, and plunge into life more wholeheartedly than you ever have before. Self-confidence is the hinge upon which turns the gate of individual achievement. When your self-confidence becomes unlimited, you'll be able to realize more of your potential than you could under any other circumstances. More than 2,000 years ago, Aristotle wrote that happiness is a condition. It is not something that is achieved by pursuing it directly, but rather comes as a result of our engaging in purposeful activities. The law of indirect effort. In a way, these words by Aristotle are a restatement of the law of indirect effort. This law states that almost everything we get in life involving people and emotional experiences comes to us more indirectly rather than directly. They come to us as a result of doing something else. For example, if we pursue happiness directly, it eludes us. But if we get busy doing something that is really important to us and begin to make real progress in the direction of our dreams and aspirations, we find ourselves feeling very happy indeed. Self-confidence is also subject to the law of indirect effort. We achieve higher levels of self-confidence, not by wishing for it, but by setting and achieving ever higher goals and objectives. As we move forward step by step, as we feel ourselves advancing in life, we feel better and stronger and more capable of taking on even bigger challenges. Become more confident and competent. We develop the confidence to tackle larger goals by applying our energies to the accomplishment of smaller goals. We build up our confidence as we move forward until we reach the point where there is nothing that we won't take on. In fact, the habit of setting and achieving ever larger goals is absolutely indispensable to the development of ever higher levels of self-confidence and personal power. You can only really believe in yourself when you absolutely know that you have the ability to do what you set out to do. True self-confidence comes not from positive wishing or positive hoping or positive thinking. It comes from positive knowing, based on having proven to yourself over and over again that you have what it takes to get from wherever you are to wherever you want.